Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack complex ideas, hopefully give you those aha moments without drowning you in information. Today we are diving deep into a collection of poems, Cherie Ora's This Took Everything. It's profound. It explores losing yourself gradually, not suddenly, but over years. Quiet self-abandonment. It's not just about illness, though it's there. It really sings through the experience, letting you feel that exact moment someone realizes, oh, wow, I've been pretending I'm okay for way too long.
Absolutely. And while it's deeply rooted in the experience of chronic illness, its real power, I think, is how universal it feels. It taps into that shared human thing of just pushing through, denying pain, the slow unraveling that can happen to any of us. So our mission today is to really get into the three core movements Aura lays out: fatigue, grief, and finally, grace. We want to pull out those insights, the really personal ones, but also the ones that resonate broadly about what it means to live in a body that's, well, still trying, still here, still soft.
Okay, so let's start there. With that first section, the fatigue. This is where she really sets the stage for this quiet undoing. It describes this emotional shutdown, the overperforming, the painful thing of just ignoring what your body is telling you. What jumped out at you immediately there?
Well, what's fascinating right off the bat is how fatigue here is so much more than just being physically tired. It's deeper. It's an exhaustion born from ignoring yourself, from that constant performance of wellness, from literally abandoning your own body. And you see how societal pressures just warp everything, making us feel like we have to apologize for simply existing, for breaking down. Like in that poem, I said, sorry before I breathed. That first instinct is apology, prioritizing politeness over pain. It's like
Yeah.
learned self-abandonment.
Right. Oh, totally. It's that slow fade, isn't it? That denial just wrapped up in I'm fine or making jokes to deflect. I definitely saw myself in some of those lines, especially the ones about performing resilience. There's one where, yeah, it feels like she's literally apologizing for having a body. It's heartbreaking, but like what's underneath that? What
Yeah.
deeper stuff do you think
Yeah.
she's really getting at there?
That's such a key question. Because it's not just politeness, is it? Fine becomes this shield, almost a spell, like she writes in, I said I was fine. We internalize this pressure to manage everyone else's comfort, even if it means silencing our own truth. It's like a silent prison of pretending to be okay.
Yeah.
And then there's that insidious idea that maybe the pain is just normal. She hits that hard, and I thought pain was normal.
Hmm.
We're kind of taught to just dismiss daily aches or, turn them into personality quirks. Oh, I'm just fragile or high maintenance. Like laughing it off makes it lighter.
So it's not just hiding it, but actually blaming yourself for it. That whole idea of punishing your body instead of listening, it sounds so wrong, but it feels painfully familiar. Why do we even do that? Why the internal punisher instead of like curiosity?
I think it boils down to fear, mostly. Fear and wanting to belong. If your body is getting in the way, like she says in I blamed my body for everything, it feels like a threat to your ability to keep up, to be normal, to not be a burden. So you try to control it or shrink yourself down. Aura captures that so well, and I got good at shrinking, how being quiet, invisible, becomes this art form, avoiding questions, timing your exits before the limping became visible, just erasing yourself preemptively. And then when someone does say something nice, like, you're so resilient or so put together, like in I said thank you, there's an awful irony. You accept it, right? Politely. Jaw clenched tight to keep the pain from spilling out. Because admitting the truth feels like failing somehow. The effort of seeming effortless, it's immense.
Wow. Yeah, that's a heavy, heavy weight. And the coping mechanisms she talks about, the denial, also really hit home. Like in I Never Called It Trauma, how she says there were no sirens, just this quiet folding, not a dramatic break, denying real pain because it wasn't loud enough, maybe.
Exactly. And that denial often shows up as deflection, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Especially humor. Poems like I let memes speak for me or I made it funny so you wouldn't ask. It's easier to laugh it off than explain why the pain just won't leave. You call it quirky tired instead of what it really is, collapsing tired. It keeps people at a distance. And this avoidance gets amplified by just pushing relentlessly, like an I wouldn't stop working or I filled my calendar to forget.
Hmm.
Productivity becomes the perfect disguise, right?
Sure.
Patching holes, avoiding the truth that you're actually unraveling, trying to outrun the hurt. It's another form of self-abandonment, really, keeping busy to avoid stillness.
So when does it finally crack? When does that performance of fine just stop working?
Well, eventually, the body just can't be ignored anymore. That's the onset of knowing she writes about. In I recognize the beginning of the end, the pain isn't just at night anymore. The fake joy starts leaking out.
Mm.
And that leads to those turning points, like it was just a checkup or they called and everything changed. That's the shift, isn't it? From maybe possibly to undeniable confirmation, those 12 words that crack the illusion. She was just tired. There's such a finality there. And then I was at borrowed time. That captures it so painfully, just going through the motions, performing normal while my body quietly mourned what it already knew was about to be lost. It's like a glimpse of the grief that's coming.
This first section just perfectly captures that quiet, hidden suffering. So what's the takeaway for someone listening who maybe isn't dealing with a physical illness, but they recognize that feeling, that slow fade, the performing fine?
I think it speaks so directly to anyone who's ever put external expectations, work, society, whatever, ahead of their own internal reality.
Yeah.
Maybe because they didn't have the words for their own pain or just felt they had to keep going. The insight, I think, is a huge call to just listen. Listen to those quiet whispers from your body, your mind, your spirit before they become screams you can't ignore. It really shows the cumulative cost of that quiet self-abandonment, pushing us to ask what fine actually means for us.
And then, boom, grief hits. It feels like she just breaks wide open on the page. We move into the second section, the grief. The quiet facade starts to crack. It's this huge shift from denial to reckoning. She really comes undone. What did you make of that turning point? How did you read this grief? Did it feel like surrender or more like collapse?
Oof. Collapse first. Definitely. But, the kind of collapse you need. It's the kind that forces you to finally say, enough. And you're right, it's not just grief for a body failing. It's bigger. It's grief for who you used to be or who you pretended to be, for the life you performed. It's mourning that version of yourself, the one who could outrun pain with productivity.
It gutted me.
Yeah.
Seriously, that line about outrunning pain with productivity, that's not just about illness, is it? That feels like it's about capitalism, about womanhood, about that immigrant grit sometimes. She's not just mourning her body, she's mourning a whole identity. It's a total undoing. So yeah, that collapse feels necessary, like you said, the kind that finally says enough.
It's exactly that kind of collapse. And it often kicks off with the brutal reality of diagnosis. I was finally seen, and I hated it. She talks about that sterile clinical word, how final it feels, being stitched into a diagnosis I didn't want to wear. And she described that internal earthquake, and I felt the floor shift, and I heard the ending in his voice, that immediate sense of ending, not a beginning, a label that's going to live in your file forever. But even with that truth, the first instinct in I didn't want to make it real is just to hold it in, like a blade tucked behind my teeth, wanting desperately to stay almost okay a little longer. It's so human, isn't it? That resistance to a reality you never chose, even when it's right there.
And that resistance isn't just denial, right? It's also trying to grab back control. She talks about switching into fix-it mode. How does that work?
Precisely. I switched into fix-it mode. She describes trying to manage all spreadsheets, protocols, data, becoming her own case manager. Anything but feeling vulnerable. And the really profound insight there, I think, is how even trying to heal can become just another performance, another test to ace. I treated healing like a test, and I tried to be gentle. She has this crushing realization that doing everything right didn't make the pain go away.
Yeah.
And that deep fear of stillness, it sticks around. I was still afraid of rest. Highlights how that cycle of self-abandonment continues, even when you're supposedly trying to heal.
Wow. That's the exhaustion of the fight right there, just the sheer effort of managing it, hiding it. It becomes unbearable. It leads to a different kind of giving up, maybe a quieter surrender.
It really is. That profound exhaustion comes through so clearly, and I wasn't getting better, just quieter, and I got tired of trying. It's not some dramatic break, but this quiet unraveling, reaching a point of being not broken, just done. And that forces this huge realization in poems like, I only knew myself in survival, and I built my life around strength.
Yeah.
Her whole identity was tangled up in overcoming and being strong. There was just no space left to receive softness or to simply be.
Which leads finally to that softening you mentioned, the end of needing to prove anything. It sounds like a deep, necessary exhale, finally.
That's a beautiful way to put it, the softening of the end. Yeah. I was done proving, finally. I was tired in every way. You see this surrender. But it's a surrender to a different kind of trying. Without apology, without needing anyone else to validate it. There's a massive shift in, I asked for a life I could survive in. It's not a demand, it's more like a prayer for gentleness, for life that fits her, not some impossible ideal. And then that incredibly powerful act of forgiveness and searching for a new normal, and I set fire to who I was, and I try to unlearn what broke me. Where being soft isn't weak. This whole section really dives into accepting what you can't change.
This whole section feels like it's about the pain of acceptance. So how do we take that intense personal grief for a body, an identity, a future, and apply it to other struggles? Accepting realities we didn't choose, like a job loss or a relationship ending or, yeah, chronic illness.
It's a powerful reminder, I think, that grief isn't just about death. It's profoundly about the loss of self, the loss of potential, the loss of the stories we told ourselves about our lives. The big insight here is that real acceptance often has to come after a necessary breakdown of the old ways. It's really an invitation to see that sometimes the bravest thing is to stop fighting what is, to allow that painful, messy, but ultimately freeing process of coming undone. Because that's what opens the door to something new, even if it's hard.
And then we arrive at the grace, which isn't some big triumphant victory march, is it? It's softer, quieter, more profound. It's about presence, allowance, this gentle becoming. By the time we get here, there's this stillness. The poems stop fighting, like you said. They just breathe. There was one line that just stuck with me. Healing didn't arrive as a miracle, but as permission. Wow. That just, yeah, that changed how I thought about it. What surprised you most about grace?
What's really striking is that grace here doesn't mean the pain vanishes. It means the fight against the pain softens. It's this deep acceptance that fundamentally changes how you live with it. And you're right, it's not triumphant or preachy. It's just soft, like a balm. Exactly. This book really teaches that healing isn't about winning. It's about making peace with the ache, living alongside it, and finding a joy that isn't performative anymore, but real, deep, quiet, sustainable.
That it was soft. Yes, not triumphant. That really resonated. But for some people listening, maybe grace still sounds a bit passive or like giving up the fight entirely. Do you think Laura suggests there's still effort involved, or is it a complete surrender to stillness?
That's a really good distinction. I don't think it's passive. It's more like redirecting the energy. The fight becomes this compassionate choice to stay, to tend to yourself. It starts with reclaiming who you are right now. Again, in my own name, she talks about seeing the ache as wisdom, about building a life that's slower, softer, something sacred. The insight is that just being present is a form of strength, a powerful one. And then you have, I've made peace with the unfinished, and I'm not strong just here. That shift away from needing all the answers, all the certainty, embracing just being here, breathing as sacred, realizing that showing up is enough. She says it so clearly, and I call this staying, and I claim her, even in pain. That active choice to inhabit your body, even when it hurts, moving with compassion, not punishment.
So it's fundamentally changing the relationship with yourself, with your body, not just thinking about it differently, but feeling it differently.
Exactly. Viscerally. And that flows into embracing softness, allowing support. I float instead of fight. That's both literal and metaphorical, right? Letting go of the urgency, the apologies, allowing stillness. The core idea there is that real ease comes when you stop needing to control everything. And that connects to, I remember what it cost me. Looking back and seeing that past strength was often just silence and fear, which creates this desire for ease now, softness you don't have to earn. She emphasizes treating slowness as devotion in, I sit with the quiet and I let her soften, like a love letter to your own nervous system, refusing to abandon yourself again. And it culminates in, I'll let it be enough and I let them help me now, giving yourself permission to feel peace even when there's still pain, and seeing that asking for help is actually courage, not weakness.
That is such a radical shift, isn't it? From constantly needing to prove your worth to just accepting it. It must open up a whole new way of defining life and joy. When you stop fighting to be someone you're not, what emerges?
A life with more space in it, more authenticity. And I ask different questions now, and I'm learning what fits me now. You see this conscious rethinking of dreams, gently shaping a life that actually fits the body's rhythm. The insight is that true alignment comes from listening inward, not just outward. She talks about it in I'm learning to move at my pace and I hold what's mine. Prioritizing ease, simple things like sunlit cities, pain-free memories over that relentless chase, life becomes spacious, sacred. And then, this really profound part, I let joy sit beside the pain, and I choose this rebellion. That message is huge. Joy doesn't cancel out pain, they can coexist. And choosing joy anyway is an act of resistance, of self-love, refusing to let suffering steal everything.
Connecting this to the bigger picture then, this kind of grace really isn't about overcoming in the traditional sense. It's about profound self-love, radical acceptance, being worthy not despite your limits, but maybe even because of your presence, your willingness to just stay.
It truly is. And the core philosophy of the book just shines through there. Lines like, life doesn't need to be painless, joy doesn't have to be constant, and ultimately, your presence is the prayer. It drives home that your worth isn't conditional. It comes from your existence, from staying, from that quiet miracle of choosing to be present, even when it's hard. It's a radical act of self-love, just being here, in your body,
Yeah.
on your own terms.
Wow, what a journey through this cert. This took everything. It really isn't a how-to guide, is it? It's more like a profound me too, a companion for anyone who feels unseen in whatever struggle they're facing. It reminds us that, yeah, your pace can be holy, your softness can be strength, your stillness can be wisdom. You're not behind. You're not alone. You are still here.
Yeah.
And that is everything. And if you're listening and maybe you're in that place where your body feels like it's breaking down, but you're still trying to be everything for everyone, maybe just let this book hold you for a little while. It's not a how-to. It really is a me too.
Absolutely. This deep dive really shows that healing isn't always about winning or fixing or getting back to some before. Sometimes it's about making peace with the ache, living with it, and finding a different kind of joy, deep, quiet, sustainable, that doesn't depend on the pain being gone.
Hmm.
It's about giving yourself permission to just be soft, silent, and still becoming.
So if you've read Cherie Ora's This Took Everything, we'd love for you to share maybe your favorite line or just how it resonated with you. Let us know. And if you haven't read it yet, maybe pick it up. Read it slow. Let it read you back.